Spiritual Leadership Training Lesson 46, The Reproducer, Part 2, The Way to Change Your World. Please remember to watch the video prior to listening to or reading the PDF notes. Cycle of discipleship. Number 1, believer. Number 2, member. Number 3, minister. Number 4, leader. Number 5, reproducer. The circle of raising up world changers. Number 1, believer. Number 2, member. Number 3, minister. Number 4, leader. Number 5, reproducer. In lesson 45, I began to address the circle of discipleship, especially focus on number 5, the reproducer. We looked at the importance of the reproducer in light of the scriptures. We learned from the book of Genesis that reproducing is vital for all creation. This is also clearly seen in the new creation. We saw in our previous lesson that Jesus is the ultimate reproducer and that we are the continuum of this process. As we actively engage in soul winning, discipleship, and mentoring emerging spiritual leaders, we are operating as reproducers. In this lesson, we are continuing to focus on the leader as a reproducer. The reproducer defined: to produce again or anew, recreate, to generate offspring. To function as a world-changing leader and to reach the world with the gospel, we will need a changed strategy and approach to ministry. What we are accomplishing is better than nothing, and some people are working very diligently to make a difference. It is not all bad. However, we must improvise and change our modus operandi. In the developed nations, we are losing ground rather than gaining ground. On the other hand, in Africa, India, Pakistan, and other nations, we see tremendous advances in the churches. Sadly, in the once Christian nations, we can see that the secularization is taking over. The churches in developed nations need revival, and those that are doing a work must make some changes in their approach to winning the harvest. I believe that if the existing and emerging leaders in the church could grasp the reproducing spirit, they can make a huge difference, even in the secularized modern world. To see and experience the Book of Acts growth, we must employ Book of Acts strategies. The reason the early church saw such amazing growth and expansion of the kingdom was due to the Lord who added and multiplied souls to the church. It is He who builds the house, and the believers co-labored with Him. Apostolic signs, wonders, and miracles were taking place. The believers went everywhere preaching the gospel, and God was working with them, confirming the word with signs following. Everyone who believed gathered faithfully to seek God in corporate prayer, fellowship, and the breaking of bread. They genuinely cared for one another. Jesus started His ministry by training ordinary people to be fishers of men. He made them more than evangelists. Jesus made them apostles, empowered them, and developed these men to be global-minded spiritual leaders. Everyone was being taught and trained by the apostles to be soul winners and operating in the reproducing spirit. In light of the reproducer, I want to address some important points seen in the prayer of Jabez. 1 Chronicles 4, 9 through 10. Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. And Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed, and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. So God granted him what he requested. In prayer, Jabez was often viewed as a prayer about financial increase, and certainly it can be used as a prayer of commitment to become a generous giver and receiver. However, rather than focus on the financial increase, I see this prayer as an appeal from the heart of a passionate man to see God's deliverance from oppressive forces and awakening a nation. God desires that his people prosper, but Jabez was more focused on reviving a nation and raising disciples than on financial increase. The prayer of Jabez was about reproducing a people who would be revived, and they would change the spiritual state of a nation. This prayer is about raising up spiritually minded people who would change the destiny of the nation. What made Jabez more honorable than his brothers? Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. When I look intently into this statement that Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, here is what I understand. His brothers were not evil or living immoral lives. They were probably good Jewish men who went about their lives in the way that most people lived at the time. They worked hard, cared for their families, and went to the synagogue as the law required them to do. However, these brothers was choosing to make a difference in their generation. They did not make their lives available to do anything more than the law of God required. They were satisfied living in the status quo. Jabez, on the other hand, stepped forward and made himself available to become a world-changing leader. He did this by seeking God's touch and empowerment. He opened his heart wide to God to be changed and to raise up others to bring spiritual awakening to the land. Today, many Christians are living just like Jabez's brothers. These believers are not doing anything wrong, but they are not doing what needs to be done to bring about a spiritual revolution. These believers are not making themselves available to go out of their way to bring change. These believers are not exposing their hearts for God's change to start in them and then flow through them into their world.
Breaking the prophetic expectation. And his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. Jabez dared to invalidate the expectation that had been placed upon his life, that he would cause pain. Jabez broke the negative, soul-destroying expectation that his life would cause pain. Rather, he chose to become the vessel of blessing and honor. With these thoughts in mind, what limitations have been spoken over your life? What are the inner limitations that would stop you from becoming a spiritual leader who will bring change for your generation? Do you know of anything hidden or revealed in your life that will limit your leadership from being activated? Jabez confronted the words that had been spoken over his whole life and decided that he would dare to live for something bigger than himself. He assertively stepped forward as a world changer, and God expanded his influence, and today his reputation is still remembered as recorded in eternity and in the scriptures. Right now, and right where you are at, you can step forward like Jabez to be a world changer. Your life can never be recorded in the scriptures, as the pages can never be added or subtracted from. However, your story in life can be recorded in the library of eternity. You can be a world-changing leader who will impact this generation for eternity. All you have to do is make a decision to become all that God has called you to be. You can be that spiritual leader that changes your world. Leadership takeaway. Will you dare to live for something bigger than yourself? Will you be like Jabez and step forward to change your world? The God of transformation. And Jabez called on the Lord of God of Israel, saying, Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. Jabez was transformed by the God of transformation, the God who touched Jacob and changed this deceiver to become Israel. Jabez knew that if God could change Jacob to Israel, then the reputation that he was given from birth could be removed. Unlike Jacob, Jabez was not given a new name, but he was transformed. As a world-changing leader, the change must start in you. Jabez called on the God of Israel. He called on the God of transformation. Here is what you may want to do. Firstly, remove any distractions that will eat your time and pull you away from running with your God-given dream. As you realize by now, your time is either going to be spent for you and the temporal, or for the glory of God and counting for eternity. Align all of who you are and all that you must do to accomplish all the will of God. Place your life on the altar of sacrifice and be willing to be poured out for the faith of others. Secondly, begin to seek the heart, face, and the hand of God. Boldly ask that He would give you access to all the resources needed for the divine task of changing your world. God is gracious and generous and will make a way where there seems to be no way, and He will give you divine strategies and wisdom. He is not against you, but for you and in you. God is good, great, kind, merciful, and powerful. He is the God of transformation, the touch of God. That your hand would be with me. The hand of the Lord came upon Jabez and empowered him and expanded him, and therefore expanded his territory. Nehemiah spoke about the gracious hand of God upon his life. Nehemiah 2:18. God has His arm of power outstretched towards those who diligently seek Him. His touch can heal, deliver, change, empower, and supply for us what we need or desire. He is generous, extremely wealthy, and powerful. The God of Jabez, Nehemiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and the unnamed leper is willing to touch you today. Notice in these scriptures that God touched those who pressed and sought to receive from Him, and He will graciously touch you. Isaiah 59 verse 1, Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened that He cannot save, nor His ear heavy that it cannot hear. Ezekiel 37:1, The hand of the Lord came upon me and brought me out in the spirit of the Lord, and He set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was full of bones. Psalms 89 verse 13, You have a mighty arm, strong is your hand, and high is your right hand. Jeremiah chapter 32 verse 17, Ah, Lord God, behold, you have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and outstretched arm. There is nothing too hard for you. Marc chapter 1 verse 40 through 42, Now a leper came to Him, imploring Him, kneeling down to Him and saying to Him, If you are willing, you can make me clean. Then Jesus, moved with compassion, stretched out His hand and touched him and said to him, I am willing, be cleansed. And as soon as He had spoken, immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. Expanded territory or increased realm of influence. And enlarge my territory, or from the Chaldean translation, and enlarge my borders with disciples. We see from the Chaldean translation of Jabez's desire for more territory was not only to displace the oppressors, but also to advance the cause of godliness through the multiplication of disciples. This was the reproducer rising like the dawn to start a spiritual revolution. Jabez became a reproducer. And enlarge my borders with disciples, he said. I want to switch gears. I want to change our focus from you receiving from God to you becoming a world changer. I would like you to see yourself becoming a world changer who will reproduce others to become world changers. And just as Jabez wanted to change his world and expand his influence through other disciples, so you will need to also make this same shift. The task to change this world and grow the church is too great for you alone. You need a team of men and women who are the same as you. Jesus selected 12 disciples and trained them, made them fishers of men, leaders, apostles, and world changers. He reproduced in them, and these 12 increased to 120, and they were empowered with a soul-winning, disciple-making, and world-changing spirit. This is the reproducing spirit.